goodness.
Great. Welcome everyone to the IQ MuleSoft study group. This one is on DataWeave, and we have Vincent Lowe. And so just to tell you a little bit about Vincent Lowe, he is a principal technical instructor. He teaches DataWeave, and I've worked with him very, very closely. And Vincent, now you can introduce yourself further.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Whitney. So hi, everybody. I'm Vincent Lowe. I work for Salesforce Trailhead Academy now, and I teach the MuleSoft curriculum, the developer courses, some of the operations courses, and my favorite of the courses is DataWeave. So I thought I'd join the folks here at Integration Quest and chitter chat with you guys about DataWeave. I have some challenges for you, and I want to find out about your experience as well. So that's the plan. In fact, I think, did you have anything else you were going to add or present, Whitney, or you want me to just?
No, I think the first thing is we want to know how comfortable you guys are with DataWeave. And Vincent, you can kind of shape that question however you would like. And I'll
Sure.
stop sharing so that you can share your screen.
All right, perfect. Perfect. Here comes my screen. Having flashbacks to my day-to-day life. Oh, no. You know what I was kind of hoping to, though? All right. Well, that's it. Share the screen. I was hoping maybe I could piggyback my sound on that. When we do the challenges, I was thinking I'd run just a little musical backing to help us time it out. I hate dead air. It makes me crazy. And when I teach, of course, if there is dead air, people wander out and start digging in their gardens, making some eggs, and they never come back. So don't like the dead air very much. What am I doing here? So first of all, I've just set up a little bit of challenge area for you, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. Let's see, why don't you go like that? All right, so step one, before I launch into this, it would be crazy if I didn't know more about you guys. So what I want you to do is look at the screen that we're sharing with you, the shared screen, and at the top or the bottom, usually at the bottom, you'll find a control bar. And on the control bar, there is a tool that says reactions. So find that tool. You might have a smiley face if you see the full toolbar. And when you see the full toolbar, go ahead and raise up a hand to let me know that you found the control. That's our first step. Thank you, Ryan. There's Diane. Kavya, good. I see Victoria. Maxim, very good. Looking for that. Yeah, there you go, Maxim. All right, cool. All right, Farhan, Namrata, I hope you guys are doing okay there. Now I'm going to clear the board, and I want to just ask you a few questions that'll help me understand like how to set these challenges up for you, and also what kind of things you might be interested in being told. So here's the first one. How many of you are there anybody here that's been in my class, my DataWeave class? Anybody? You can just put in fact, do me a favor and give a negative answer too. Like if you haven't been, Ryan's been in my class. Yes, thank you. If you haven't, just choose a thumbs up. Just give me the thumbs up gesture. Let me know you're there. Okay, good. Yeah, or down. Yeah, Kavya. And then if you have been in the DataWeave class, maybe with Ryan or Diane, also raise up a hand for that. Anybody? Change it to a hand up. Nobody? Okay, well, cool. So then I can assume, yeah, I'm going to show you stuff that's new to you because I stole a little bit of the bonus material from the DataWeave class that we teach. So, and one last thing about experience and things you've seen. Have any of you completed the Anypoint Developer Fundamentals course? We talk about DataWeave in that course too. And again, if you haven't, just, oh, Maxime, yeah. In fact, I think, were you in my class, Maxime? Maybe you were in my class one time. Kavya, been to that class? Diane's given the class. Ryan's given the class. All right, very good. So those are two places where we talk about DataWeave a lot. We, depending on how the fundamentals course is delivered, you might be talking about DataWeave starting around the middle and all the way to the end. Sometimes you get a heavy dose at the end. And then Trailhead Academy has a 2-day DataWeave course. And all three of us you see on the screen right now teach that course. And here, I wanted to show you a little something here about what we do with that course, because I think this is the right mission for a DataWeave course. This is what we want you to be able to do at the end. You're going to write reusable transformations, learn to generalize so you don't write the same code over and over. And you'll use the tools, variables, functions. One of the things that I love about the first day of the course is we focus on building a DataWeave module by the end of that day. And from that point on, you can begin to write things that you use in all of your code everywhere. Because really, there are some classic things to do with DataWeave. And once you do those things, you want to be able to keep using the code that you build. So building a DataWeave module is a really big deal. The second objective here, build complex transformations from small testable steps. That's a big thing. DataWeave, I got to tell you, I've seen some horrible DataWeave in my day. You guys have too. You know it's true. There are a couple of key sins that I find in DataWeave when I come upon it in the wild. One of them is I call the endless graveyard of concatenations. Somebody figures, all DataWeave developers learn concatenation is the first thing. How do you make two strings glom together? Oh, it works with arrays. That's cool. But then I see these things where it's like concatenated to, and also, and it stretches on for miles. It's a terrible thing. And it's also difficult to impossible to maintain. So we want to show you ways to build things in small steps and small units that you can test. So that's the other thing, using functions, we want to learn how to make them robust and also to test them well. And there's a workflow that really works. So I think when we attack the first transformation, we'll work on it together and we'll work through the steps together here on this thing. And then in the DataWeave course, it's almost all action. You just write code and then you write more code and then you write different code. And in this fourth objective, you see what we get to. We do transformations, we filter data, reorder it, all these sorts of things. Yeah, no, Ryan, you had an observation you wanted to throw in there.
No, honestly, it's a question for the audience as people join, because I know some of these people, they've been in our other study groups and some are new to me. So I don't know if you guys, while Vincent's kind of introducing some next level objectives for DataWeave, like what makes good DataWeave, if you want to just put maybe like a 1 to 5 rating in the chat of where you rate yourself on DataWeave skills, that might also help calibrate.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to bring the chat over here. The endless graveyard of concatenations. You buying that, huh? Good. There's another one, Ryan. There's another one that it's the what is that other major sin that I see? And it'll come back to me. Anyway, so I got caveat 3.5. Maxim is 5 of 10. Very nice. That means you're starting to love it, Maxim. All right, now these are the things we do, and when we wrap up the course, we talk a little bit about recursion, and I'm going to have you consider that with me today. There's something special about how DataWeave treats recursion, and I want to share that with you because you can use it right away. And so that's where we go when we do this course. We get to those objectives. So I hope we'll have some fun and learn some things in this session, but for the full dosage, look for that course. And probably if you're in North America, one of the three of us will teach that course. So if you find this useful, I'm looking at the DataWeave playground right now, you guys. This is, you can get to it a whole bunch of different ways, but if you say dataweave.mulesoft.com, you'll be led there. In fact, you know what? I will share this link on the chat stream because I'd like you to go ahead and bring that up in a browser if you're able. And then you can follow along with the things that we do. In fact, I'm also going to share a little bit of data with you over the chat stream. So it'll be good if you want to go ahead and get that up and running. Now look here. When you get to the DataWeave playground, it won't look quite like mine does. I've been monkeying with this today. I've been playing with the playground, you know, I don't know, said it was okay, right on the label and stuff. But this is one of the most frictionless spaces you can move to because you have a bright idea and you want to try it out in DataWeave. And sometimes you don't want to try it out in the context of your full application because it's complicated in there. What you want to do is your bright idea wants to work in isolation first. You get a small data set to look at and so on. So I'll pop into the DataWeave playground all the time while I'm working, just for nothing else than to test out an idea sometimes. And it's not the only way. There are a couple of other good ways to do that, even working within Anypoint Studio. So you want to get to the DataWeave playground, and I want to show you something about it. When you're here, if you look at the upper right, the penultimate link you see here, just touch that for a moment, the tutorial. So if you feel like your level of, yeah, I know, I think that still works, Ryan. I think when I put dwlang.fun, it still took me to the right space.
Cool.
But yeah, we normalized so we could, well, we would always remember that, but so people could remember dataweave.mulesoft.com takes me in. Now check it out.
It did not work today.
Oh, it's dead then, huh? Yeah, you're gonna have to put in your DNS. Vanity DNS on the client end. Anyway, so this tutorial about DataWeave is pretty simple-minded, very pedestrian. First, we're gonna do strings, and then we're gonna do variables. I would never teach this way, but it is a handy way to quickly move to some of the topics that you might want to look into. Like a lot of times at the beginning, people are curious, what is all these dollar business going on here? And so I might come in and remind myself, what does this mean and what's it for? And what's nice is that they give you a way to test that you understand what they're telling you, because there'll be a challenge at the end. And you can see from my table of contents on the right, once you do the challenge, it checks you off and says, yeah, you did this. You figured out how to write a named function, whatever the challenge was for that. So the tutorial, it's worth a quick read, especially if you feel like your level of expertise in DataWeave is, well below 5 or something out of 10. It's a handy place, and it's a good place to look up what you learned in the past. You can go back here for reference. And look, there's a reference here to the DataWeave documentation. Now, I like having that. I consider that to be really a handy way to get where you need to go. And it's because the MuleSoft documentation is bewilderingly gargantuan, right? And so you have to find just the topic you're looking for. And even with DataWeave, there's like $4. It's a lot of stuff. So the DataWeave playground will pop this up for you. Now, there's one thing you should be aware of, though. At MuleSoft, when we get you to the documentation, the version number is embedded into links. And what I would recommend before you go bookmark something is you go to latest, and you get to 2.6 now. The DataWeave playground still drops you in 2.4, which frankly is pretty much the same thing. There are stability and performance updates, and they add new feature or new functions sometimes to help with various things. So, but in general, DataWeave's mature, and so it isn't changing rapidly. Nonetheless, you want to link to the latest version of the doc if you can, unless you're working with an older version. Now back to my DataWeave playground. If you're looking at the doc the way I am, your DataWeave playground is in an adjacent tab. And I'm going to motor on back to the DataWeave playground. All right, so just quick level set. We may know, and after this you will, that every DataWeave expression has potentially a header and delimiter, and then the body. And the body is a description of what you want the output to be. So it's just an equation. It's just an equation. And there's only one. Your equation has one thing. You have many terms, but it's one thing. And so the way you create complexity is you isolate logic, move it to a function, isolate definitions of values, move it to a variable. And so in the end, what shows below the delimiter, below the 3 dashes, is one expression. And whatever that expression is, it gives you the output that it describes. The cool thing about DataWeave is it's like JSON. So whatever you know about JSON, it's true about DataWeave. So it looks just like JSON. You don't quote the keys. That's the key visible difference. That's it. So if you would, go ahead and in the DataWeave playground, own the body of this expression. Put your own expression in there, curly braces to help make an object, and then a key value pair. Right now, I want to start us with a simple foundation. And I guess for that foundation, what I'll have you do is this. Look at the left-hand column. You have the DataWeave input explorer at the top. It says payload, and when you look inside, it's just an object with one key and one value. You can observe it if you want. Whatever you put in the input explorer becomes effectively like a named variable. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do is on the input explorer side, look for that plus sign, add a new input source, and call it flights to LAX. I'm going to do it on screen too. So I'll say flights to somewhere. I already did flights to LAX, and I'll create. And when you do this, you will go ahead and select the name. And what you'll see is it gives you an empty JSON structure. And what I'd like you to do is take this data that I'm about to share with you on the chat stream. Please be too long. All right, here's an idea of what you could try. Really would like you to have the whole thing.
You want to do code share, code IO?
Yeah, I think it will. And here in the chat stream, I will share with you the link. Ryan, I see a note from you in chat too. You were saying you can set your own version in VS Code. Do you mean in terms of accessing the doc, or in terms of which version of DataWeave you're using?
Yeah. In a project, in using the DataWeave extension, you can use 2.4, 2.5, 2.6. Set it to.
Does it link to the correct doc version when you look?
No, VS Code doesn't have any documentation link. It's just a POM file.
Oh, I thought when I was looking at well,
let me look.
I might have been looking at Code Builder directly, and I thought they had like help that led to doc. But
well, if I'm looking at it now, it might be here. I haven't found that part yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I looked. I don't usually talk much in my classes about it quite yet, just because haven't hammered on it quite as long. Do me a favor, if you have gathered the data from the code share and placed it in your data explorer, give me the thumbs up or a raised hand. Let me know. And if you're just watching instead of playing along, that's okay. Just put up a hand anyway. Let me know that you're good to go. I just want to give everybody a chance to get your data. Thank you, Victoria, Maxine. I think I saw Kavya in there. There you go, Maxine. Good. Okay, so here's the deal now. When we go to our script area, and if we simply reference flights to LAX, it appears in our output panel. Okay, now the output panel, I'm not really demonstrating this in today's session, but the output panel that you use when you use Anypoint Studio is slightly different from this, and it actually does a heavy lift. Okay, when you are working with your code and you make changes to it, you see the output here in the playground update immediately. In Anypoint Studio, this is the same thing that will happen. In fact, in Anypoint Studio, the output panel gets rendered every 500 milliseconds. So the moral of that story is that when you work with Anypoint Studio, it's going to keep up with you and show you your expression as you build it. That's how you get step-by-step move to the next piece, right? But if you're rendering the entire data set against this with this expression every 500 milliseconds, a data set even the size of 80 or 90 records is just too heavy. It's like, I can't keep up with you. You type too damn fast, and I have to re-render these 90 records twice per second. Yeah, no. So you pick a right size data set. Now let's see, what is the size of this data set? Here's one of my favorite ways to do it. There's a field in each of these records, each of these objects, there's a field called price. And so if I ask for my data set dot price, it gets me just the price fields. And by inspection, I can see the size of the data set, and that's a good size. That's a good size. And the reason that it gives me just the price values is explicitly because flights to LAX, if you look at the data structure, is an array of object. So when I address array of object and select a field from each object, then what I end up with is also an array, but it's an array with the values represented by that key. Now, if I'm working with an object of objects, I don't get quite this clean a selection. It takes a little more work. And just to give you the punchline on that, because I'm not going to demonstrate it, if flights to LAX is an object of objects, then I can use what we call the multi-value selection. And I still get the values for that field on each object. But that's the distinction you want to be clear about, right? If you have an array of objects, just say the name of a field, you get an array of those fields. If you have an object, if flights to LAX is an object of objects, then you want to address it with the multi-value selector. That's the name of that too. All right. Now, you know what? These numbers are disembodied. That's kind of a shame, but it gives me an opportunity to look at the order by function. And that's what I want to do next. So we're going to say order by $. And if you look at the values, how they're presented now, you can see, oh yeah, they're in numeric order, right? So what is this business here? What is this? What do we do with the $sign? What does that mean? Well, the order by function, if we hold still here, is expecting us to present two arguments, okay? And the first argument should be an array, which this in fact is, if I comment out my operation, an array of integers, right? Or an array of numbers rather. They're not all integers. So the first argument to order by needs to be an array. The second argument is function. And this is a simple function. It's very simple-minded, simplest function you can make. What order by does is it inspects each of the elements in turn, and then it applies the function, the lambda, and that lambda should be one that takes an item. We don't know its type, it's some type, and it returns me an item operated on by whatever happens here. Now, in that function, the $sign has a special meaning. It means the current item. If you were thinking about an object language, you might say, oh, this, like in Java and C#, it's this, right? So that's what $, really represents against when I have a function that's expecting an array as its input. Dollar generally for all the functions that act that way means the current item I'm considering. So what we're saying is look at this list and for each item, use the value of that item to put them in order, to decide what their order should be. And as long as they're numeric, or there's a logical way for me to apply times -1, we can invert the order of the sort with a minus sign. It's as if we said dollar times -1, same effect, right? Because that's what minus some value means. Now, before I go on and we do some of the little bit more complicated transformations, I want to rewrite this function in a more formalized way. Okay. And the reason I'm demonstrating this for you is that when you go to some of the more complex functions like map object, reduce, you're going to have the option to use an informal lambda the way I've highlighted here. But quite often, it's not really going to work out for you until you formalize the presentation. So to write a formal lambda here, what I'll do is I'll create an array or parentheses to give an argument list. And the argument list, I'm going to call it item, comma, index. So that's the argument list for my nameless function. Then we'll use the binding operator. Some people call it the arrow operator. And we bind these arguments then to the body of this function. And the function, in this case, I say item. And when we're not using this formal notation, then this will be called dollar in my body of my function, and this will be called dollar. And if there are more arguments, they get more dollar signs. So there's what I've just written here is exactly the same as if I said order by dollar. And I can also invert by saying minus item, and it inverts the order of the items in the list. Now, do me a favor. If you knew all the stuff I just said, would you please just light up a thumb? And if you didn't, raise a hand and say, well, some of that stuff was news to me. Just trying to decide how much to explain before we go in and do our little exercises together. Okay, cool. And if you saw something new, that's great. That makes me happy. Now, here's why we take this approach to sorting, okay? We could have just written a numeric sort function and called it numeric sort, whatever. And all you have to do is drop your array in it, and then you get it, comes out in the right order. But consider the case that I don't want to sort this array of disembodied numbers. I want to actually sort the flight records themselves. So look here. Let's just tear this all out and go back to just flights to LAX. Okay. And if you look, the first flight is $750, the second one $496, the third one $199.99. That's not going anywhere really. That's from the suburb of LA into LA, I guess. Right. So those give me a feel for my flight record. So if I want to sort the flights themselves in ascending order, I can also use order by. Now, think about what we saw a minute ago and see if you can imagine what would my expression look like if I wanted to sort these in ascending order by price. Okay, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. And I'll just get a timer going here for myself. So think about this challenge. You want to sort the flight records in order by the price. I might have to just sing. I'll give you another minute or two. If you think you have it, go ahead and raise a hand. I'm asking you to raise a hand because it won't disappear. Oh, there I got one in two in the chat. Let's see. So thank you, Namrata and Sandeep. Just going to leave a little more. Those of you who looked at the chat, you can see we would say order by $.price. Or if you wanted the highest price flight first, you'd say negative $.price. Okay. Exactly. And now look, what does this look like if I wrote this as a formal lambda? Okay, I'm going to do something like this. I'll say order by an item F. We'll bind it to F.price or or minus F.price. Correct. Cool. All right. Now, here's what I want to do next. I want to, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go to the 3-date challenge. Okay. So this will take a little more of a lift for you. So let's start with flights to LAX. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the departure date. So take the flights to LAX and get the departure date. Now, I want to talk about the things that will happen to you while you're writing DataWeave, okay? First of all, you will make errors. That's a guarantee. You're a developer. Our job is to make errors until we stop and then the product ships and then we go make errors on some other project. Okay, so you'll have errors. The most common error you'll have is a typo. You forgot a comma. You need 2 plus signs or something. Your most common error will be typos way ahead of everything else, and you'll discover those. Because when there is a typo, oh great, I just wiped out my roster. When there is a typo, you'll see some kind of indication there's an error, or in this case, at least something comes out to null. But the second most common error you're going to make is you misunderstand the type of data you're transforming. You think it's a string, but it's actually an array of strings. Or you think it's a string and it's a date, or you think it's a date, but it's not a date, it's a string. Look at these values here. Because the records are not homogeneous, what counts as departure date varies, okay? It varies. Some of them say April 11, 2018. That's kind of a US informal date presentation. In lines 5, 6, and 7, you see a format. It's not ISO 8601 directly, but it is recognized by DataWeave as an actual logical date, even though that's a string. And in the third case, you can see that also gives you what I consider a very sane date presentation, because it's sortable and you can, well, mostly because you can order things with it easily, right? This is not sortable. And in none of these cases, actually, are these dates calculatable. You can't say, take this date and add 3 days to it. Now, I'm going to find out something about these values in this data set. Okay, I'm going to look at them, and I want to know for each one of the values, what is the data type of it? So given that the second most common error type you would make is a misunderstanding of the type of data, one of the most important functions that we have in DataWeave core library is the type of function. So I'm going to demonstrate the type of function right here. Fortunately, one thing I like about the playground is it, like many civilized editors, if you highlight something and then just put in parentheses, it encapsulates it for you. I consider that pretty civilized. Type of flights to LAX, departure date of 0 is a string. And if I go to flights, departure date sub 4, which was the one, here, let me show it to you. I guess that was my, the flights to LAX departure date. That is my data set that I'm going to be using here. So, but the third, fourth, and fifth, or the fourth, fifth, and sixth of those data values it looked like an ISO date, but it's actually still a string. So this is what I know about all of the values. And there's a better way, there's actually a cleaner way for me to test every single value in the array. Okay, somebody, not Ryan and Diane, tell me what's the function I want to use when my objective is transform each item in an array in turn. If you know the answer to that, what's the function? That's it. I want a map. I'm going to use map. So let's start by that's that's what was in there. Let me, yeah, you know what? I will just tear this out. I'm going to start with flights to LAX, array of objects, okay? And then I was pulling the departure dates, so I'll get that array back. Now I'm going to use map, and if I say map 1, what is happening here? The lambda that that I presented, just the number 1, is applied to each element of the original array. And so everything gets replaced by 1. If I give $, this is the no-op version of map, right? $. It should pass through each item in the array without alteration, because I'm asking it stop at each item and then apply this function to that item. And then I say the item itself, that's the function I'm running, right? Now I could though say type of $. If I could focus the editor before I type, which I still haven't done. Type of, open parens and give $. And now I get positive confirmation, right? That my data, each element of my data is a string. Okay, so if I want to treat this as dates, I have to do a transformation into an honest date format. In fact, let's take a quick look at that. What does an honest date format look like? Here's a function from the core library now. Tells you what time it is right now. Now that's an ISO 8601 date. Looks like a string. Looks like a string, but if you take this value, highlight it, give yourself some parens. Oops, that's not the parens. There you go. And then we're going to say type of to this expression, type of now, and we get date time. So this is a data type in DataWeave, date time. There's a format called date, which is a portion of that definition. And now we know this is what we want, or really we want just date. So to get us to that goal, come back to having flights to LAX, departure date. What we want to do is we need to use map to visit each item in the array. And then we're going to do a transformation. And so in order to do the transformation, let's take just the first item. Okay, so we have flights to LAX, departure date, sub-0, really 0. Make it April 11, 2018. All right, now how do I transform that so it actually becomes a date? I'm going to say, take that value as date, big D. And then we're required to present a format. So what we do with this is we present an object, give yourself some curly braces. And the key in this object is format. If you could spell format anyway, put that in. And a colon. And then in quotes, I'm going to say, how did that date come to me? Now I have to kind of remember, but fortunately the error message presents it for me over here. So it is 3 characters a month, 2 characters for a day, and 4 characters for a year. And the format looks like this. It's M, big M's, space, DD, comma, and a space, Y. The error goes away. I see my original date still sitting there. All right, but I don't know what I'm looking at really. It looks like a string to me. I want to know the type of this thing. Now, I don't want to go and monkey up my expression and then have to undo all the work. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to create a variable in the header. Just go up to the top, output application JSON, hit enter a couple times. We'll create a variable just called D, and it equals the thing I have in my expression in the body. Make a copy of the body expression up there. Give it variable D. All right. Now, since you have this preserved and it's memorialized as a variable, you can blow away the body expression. As for D, you get the same thing that you had before. And if you say type of D, it confirms for you that this is a date. So now we have the value stored from April 11, 2018 or whatever. We have that stored in a form that can be used for calculations. We can calculate what's the date 1 year from there. We can create a time period. We can say, what's the time period starting at that date and ending on some other date? So now it's actually in a logical form, and it's safe from turn of the century also because it's logically encoded. That's what ISO 8601 is for. It's our permanent remedy to the Y2K problem, right? Now, if we simply present D, it looks the same way it looked before. It doesn't look like it changed, right? We're going to affect that in a second, but Ryan has some insight about this too.
Actually, Farhan has a question. Did you see?
Oh yeah, Farhan. Okay.
I'll read it. It says so thanks for the date scenario. Can we see one more where we get the flight time too? And then he has another follow-on question.
Okay, so actually we're kind of headed in that direction a little bit, because what we're going to do now is we're gonna except for the date time. So I'm going to circle back to that.
Okay.
But in terms of calculations, the ISO format does allow for the presence of time zone. Look at it again. Okay. Notice that it consists of the stated date in a standard form, and then after the delimiter, the T delimiter, which means time, takes you down past milliseconds. And the last two characters, wait, actually, no, just the very last character here is the time zone encoding. So that's for Zulu time. And if I wanted to have West Coast time, I'd have like Z-8. So the demarcator. Now, if you are reading data in and it has no time zone encoded and you want to enforce that, you can do this in a fashion similar to what we're about to do. We're gonna convert the form to the presentable format, right? What we did here when we said as date and format is we converted it to a logical date, so we can do calculations and we can handle time zones and so on.
Yeah, the DataWeave date type that just says date. It's an instant little 4-letter word. It has date and time zone all in it. And DataWeave has all these other types about dates. So if you like, there's another one that doesn't have a time zone called local date. Like, and so
right.
Yeah, you go dig into that documentation link that Vincent, when you're dealing with dates that are missing some portion of it, then I just go read the documentation again and remember what the different types do. And what he's showing you with the as operator there, that's the coercion. That's how you do it in DataWeave. That's how you get from a date without a time to a date with a time, or a date without a time zone to a date with a time zone. You just have to know that that's what's happening. There's different types for date information.
Indeed. In fact, we could actually do this I think this is the answer to the first part of Farhan's question. If I say coerce to date, oh, you know what? Yeah, this is when I have to go do just what you said, right? I have to go dig back. We could go to date time, but the problem is the incoming data doesn't present any encoding. So we have to deal with that in how we write the format.
Exactly.
So there is the two common pieces though are date and date time.
And
those-
exactly what Vincent's doing right now, when I'm working on it myself, I'm doing exactly the same thing with a var to capture the date out of it. Then I'll make another var that sticks the time on there or changes the time zone. This iterative process of making a variable, putting it up above the line, working with that variable to go, that's exactly how you're going to do, rather than make some gigantic DataWeave like spaghetti expression.
Yeah, and that's the real secret, and that's what we teach in our DataWeave class is don't just spool it all out in a long spaghetti, work piece by piece. And people that are successful and love DataWeave, that's why, because they do that, right? You got to. But let's take this a little further before we set this to rest. By the way, all the stuff I'm showing you, all these format structures and everything, they come from the Java .lang or java.util.datetime formatter. The DataWeave documentation will actually tell you how to use these formats and what the meaning of the symbols are. You probably have encountered this before in other disciplines, and most of the time they're the same. But the DataWeave documentation or the Java doc on datetime formatter will guide you for this. What I want to do right now is I want to present this date the way almost everybody in the world does, except in the US, right? And we'll call it the international form. So by having date be coerced into a data value rather than a string, and we've confirmed that now, we can say date D as string, but now I have the power with a curly brace to format that string the way I'd like. So I give some curly brace to make an object, give some quotes. Now the format I want is mm dash dd dash yy, or maybe YYY. Oops, is that too many Y's? Yeah, there's too many. So you can do that. And what is useful about DataWeave is that we can take this decision we're making. How do we want to present this date? And we can also memorialize that as a type. Go to the top right after output application JSON and give yourself some space to work and say type world date equal, and then I'm going to just get string format like that. We'll make that the definition of my data type. And now I can say, give me D as a world date. And I would like to actually have another format that we do use in the US. So we're going to have type US date equal string and curly braces format. Okay, copy and paste is looking better now. And quotes. And what do we do here? Well, we had the casual USA April 5, APR 5, but I'm going to do it all numeric again. So here we would say DD /YYYY. And we could test it in the body expression. And we see the change. So the challenge I want to give you here is I want to take that set of all the dates, which I believe we just called D, right? Oh, D is D is just converting one of the values. So it was a demonstration. So our whole data set we called flights to LAX, right? So go ahead and fetch your body there. Flights to LAX, get your data. And then we're actually converting just the dates. So we want the departure date set. That gives me the array of the departure dates. Okay, now here's the challenge. I want to take this array, which we're just about to memorialize into a variable, because this is awkward now, right? And I want to iterate over it. So we'll use map. And then I want to convert each date into a logical date. In other words, I want all of them to be converted into dates like that. Now, the challenge is that it's not this one format for everybody. It's different depending on what's in the data. And to deal with that, we're going to break the mold on the second greatest DataWeave sin. I remembered it now, Ryan. It's after the endless graveyard of concatenations. The second, in my mind, biggest DataWeave sin is the endless if-else construct. The never-ending if-else. See, we say on one of our slides, we say there's if and there's else and there's else if. There's no else if. There's if and there's else. And if you want to, you can put another if inside the else clause.
Guilty.
That's all.
I'm so guilty.
Oh, oh my God. Yeah, well, some days you just got to do what you got to do. But here's the thing, you know too, that it's so difficult to maintain something like that if it's 19 if-else's in a row, right? So that's where the match operation comes in, or the match. It's hard to say. I don't actually know. Is it a function? Is it an operator? Match is kind of weird, but I want to show you
It's an operator. Yep.
Yeah, well, but there's also a function that you use for dealing with code, right? Use with regular expressions, but I don't know. Anyway, here's how I want to use match though. I'm going to take flights LAX departure date, an array. Okay, I'm going to iterate over it with map, and then for each item, I'm going to say, is this the format where it starts with 3 characters? So I use a regular expression to get me there. So let's start by simplifying our input data first. So we're going to say var dates equal, and then we'll use our body expression flights to LAX and departure date. All right. And we'll update the body expression now and just say dates. Now, here's the next step. We're going to say map. And for our map operation, given that it's going to code out for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and be formal about it. So my lambda starts with parentheses, and I'll just use D as the value for what the argument's going to be. It's okay to do this even though I have a variable called D. This D has only the scope of this lambda, so it doesn't conflict. And in fact, as a rule in DataWeave, if you define something that's previously defined, your definition wins inside the scope where you define it. Don't do that all the time, right? I probably should blow this away or give this better name. I think I will, just because civilization, you know.
What is
But
everybody's preferences on that? I mean, because I've been going back and forth with really short variable names and then really long Java looking variable names. If you guys have an idea about that or a style, put that in the chat.
Yeah,
especially with nested lambdas, really long names can get awkward.
Yeah, I tend to favor the guru I learned DataWeave from favored shorter names because the scope of the names you choose is typically very small. Like it's just this lambda, right? Or just this one enclosure. But the other side of it is that it gets terrible if you use long names. And you've seen examples of that. Some are still in our book. and then I'm curious too. Yeah, and so Maxim's observation is apt. If all you ever use is foo and bar or X and Y, maybe your intention isn't as clear, but generally your best DataWeave things are going to be tiny. You're going to, you come and take our DataWeave class, you're going to end up having written a function with about as many symbols as you see on my screen, but it does something really, really powerful. So that's what generally happens. And when that's the case, then what does D do? Well, you can see at a glance, it's the entire scope. So I'm a fan like you. I think, I don't know where you are now, Ryan, but I'm a fan of the smaller symbols. especially because
I'm
again,
going
you
to my
always.
latest code to see, because I've gone back and forth. I've got words. I've got no letters. Everything's in words.
Everything's in words. Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, it's helpful to give enough symbol that it adds context. In fact, I'll tell you this. I was reading through that part of the DataWeave doc we call the DataWeave examples book, right? If it was 1999, we'd call it the DataWeave cookbook. And I was looking through it and I saw an example and I was compelled to write a blog article immediately because I was like, I understand this, but it took me a while of staring at it to derive the meaning. And a simple use of two symbols that had meaning, that gave context, would have made that clear at a glance. So I think you're like short, but not obsessively short is probably the best answer, really.
I dropped a little screenshot of
Oh, there you go.
something that's the length of my variables, and I would
Yeah,
love
that's perfect.
criticism.
Yeah, criticize him though. Oh, okay, cool. And if you guys look, Whitney dropped the naming conventions from Scala, gives you the Scala style guide, which I'll confess I haven't read. So I'm going to grab that link before we head out of here. Okay, now back to our Lambda, in which we are using obsessively tiny symbols for the moment. I don't know, again, for you guys, if this matters to you as much, but I find that using more traditional layout, the way a C programmer or a Java programmer would use, helps me to organize my thinking too. So I tend to put the Lambda body on the line by itself. And again, the more complex what you're about to do becomes, the more important it is to form the code well. So here's the no-op, right? If I say dates, map D, and then I just return D. But now I can test. I can say, okay, look at D, and if it starts with 3 letters, then we're going to do one thing. So here's what I'm going to do. I say D and then match. I'll open some parentheses, and this becomes now more like a case construct. And this is the way out of the if-else trap, right? If you have 3 if-elses in a row, just knock yourself out. It's cheap. Stuff came free with your keyboard. But if it's more complex than that, or the operation you plan to do is more complex than that, this is a better way. And I always begin by defining the default case. So I'll say else and then D. So if I don't know what to do with the thing, I'm going to return it the way it came, D, and then match. And now I don't have any cases yet, but at the opening curly brace, I'll hit enter again and say case. And then I'm going to say a /, and I'm forming a regular expression. So I'll just put both the slashes right away. And now what I'm going to do is say, for this regular expression, I'm going to say, I have a set, my regular expression, I give square brackets. And in that set, I get either A through Z or A through Z. And then what I'm going to do is, with curly braces, still inside the regular expression, curly braces, and I'll say I want to have 3 occurrences of that. That's my regular expression. Okay. And if you're not a big fan of regular expressions, you're not alone necessarily. So I share the content of that with you. Now I'm going to bind this to, say, D again. And I might have I do have a syntax error here. Hold on, let me see check my own little walk through grease there. Yeah, no, that's the right way. Let's see what's the difference here. Map of D. Here we go. D match.
Sorry, Vincent. I was playing in the chat. I know what it is. I just ran into this. You have to name it inside the case. So you have to do case D if to make if D matches.
Oh yeah, that's right. So
yeah.
normally the syntax model is like you take D match and then whatever you say here is the rest of the expression. But you're right, in this case requires a name, right? So we're going to say literal lit, I guess. Case lit, and then I think you get a colon
You
there.
can put
right?
you can put if lit. Well, I haven't tried the colon one, but yeah, that might work also. But if you do if lit, if lit matches, which isn't the short little regular expression pretty thing.
Oh, but don't you have to say the case name if you're going to use it? So you say case lit, if lit matches whatever.
That's how I've been doing it. Yeah.
Okay. That's the form that I don't use as often.
Well,
and
it's so
I need, yeah, well, it is, but also it's really useful because normally if all I want to do is say if D matches is a number, for instance, that's why you say case number is number or something. But anyway, this gives you more control over everything, right? Lit matches.
I'm trying to go find the short version of that. I know what you were aiming at. And I'm gonna
But
go
this is legal at least. And what you just seen, you guys, that's exactly your life as a DataWeave developer. You try something, you're just off a little bit, and now you're going to monkey with it until the preview comes back into focus. And then you'll go, is that the only way? I don't know, maybe I have to look for the shorter way. So this is not terrible though. And it's also semantically visible or transparent, right? We can say case lit if lit matches, and then we get D. But now I don't want to just pass D through by itself. I want to do a transformation. So now I know that these three are the ones that are matched by case lit. And so what do I say? I say D as date. And then none of those formats are there. So I have to put my own format, colon. And then actually, this is the one right here that I was about to blow away, and now I'm glad I kept it. Here, you can go.
So as soon as I duplicated, I would make that a named date type, but I don't know if
Big
there's
time. Yeah, you can do a name date type. So I would say, type lit. We'll just call it lit date equal, and then well,
there's three of them. Because you're parsing. So I've had to do this myself. Like the direction from string to date, I have to make a type for that. And the direction from date back to string, I got to make another type for that.
Yeah, but you know what? Once you do those are perfect assets to put in your library, right? Because this stuff going to happen to you all the time. So you create a strategy that you want to use, normalize these dates into your own named data types. Which, by the way, if you're going to do that, since all of the DataWeave data types are title case or title or Pascal camel case, whatever you want to call that, you can follow suit. So, and otherwise, what do? This starts to get gummier and gummier. I'm going to end up with at least one other case, right? Maybe I can get the default case to be the one that doesn't match so far. And so we would end up with 6 formats here, really. Well, 6, yeah, I mean, you'd end up with 3 formats plus how many output formats do you want to provide, right? That's how this would go. So you want to follow Ryan's advice about that completely. It's normalize the things you can into these structures that you can utilize. Because look, this became more concise now. I say take D as lit date, and the last piece is it. I mean, it didn't really transform it all the rest of the way through. Like my output still looks like my output looked before. But if we took this and then said as world date, yeah, that also
really we got to change your lit date to a date instead of a string because you're parsing, right?
Oh yeah. You're right. Oh, I see. Yeah, so you have to decide. You
got to go 2 directions.
Yeah, so actually, you'd have to do like this: date, which doesn't change the outcome, right? Then as world date.
Yeah.
Which, no.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No,
So
Jinsaki.
what I would do is I would rename my line 4 and 5 types with like world date format or world something that says I'm gonna format it, right? And that because I'm gonna make a string out of it, and then line 7 date, that's a different one. That has to be a date instead of a string.
Well,
After
no,
the-
here's what I'm fighting.
Yeah.
I can just change it as date, and that's all.
Oh,
But it doesn't give me control
right.
over the
Format.
output format, right?
Oh, but you
So
need
these
yeah,
are read formats. These are write formats. These are output forms, right?
yeah, those top two are. And line 7
This one is a read format.
exactly. So
Yeah.
call it a read date. Like,
Okay.
yeah, which airline was that one?
Well,
That
how
was-
it's more like this. This is the input side,
There you go.
and
Perfect.
I'm not using this anywhere, am I? Well, I guess I was, but oh yeah, because this
So
actually, I don't know this is
all you got to
working.
do is just change the word string to date on line 7 and it will work. Because you're parsing, right? So you're going to do as lit date in, which is going to make it a date.
Here's the deal. When you start, if you have a string and you want it to be a date, you have to
Yeah.
provide a read format. And that's why
Yeah.
that's what this one, none of these are.
Right. And none of them are, right? So
Oh,
I wanna
actually,
make
this
it
is.
into a read.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. So you're right. Okay. I'm with you now. So we say D starts as a string and we're going to coerce it, but we have to use a format that that coerces it to a date. So you're absolutely right. This does need to say date. I apologize. You were correct. This needs to say date.
Yeah. And then we got to put the format back.
And then we do it here. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah. So that way, and then you have parsers, your ins, and you'll have generators, which is your out. And it's nice and neat if we, you can name them all the same.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So then line 15, we're just going to put lit date in, everybody. Right there. And then as we need to add more formats, right? We can make a little menu.
Exactly.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So for civility's sake, we want to case normalize our symbols. And Ryan, you're right on the money here. To keep this straight, it's a good idea to use naming convention here that this is a read format. These are output formats are right. You can just say out, world date out, or world date in, like that.
Yeah, I don't want to
Now-
go way down the rabbit hole because you're still finishing the actual example, but that's where I would put a module so I could
Yes,
work
yeah,
all those
absolutely.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like my first level of these are the things I want to maybe hide in the library, right? So there you go. So it turns out that even though this is in fact a string, if we attempt to coerce that as a date, it'll just work. It'll just work because it already holds a date and time form in a standard fashion. And even though this data came to us as a string in some string encoded data, it will actually map out as a transformation. We just call it a date.
So let's do it. Yeah, because I
right.
don't see, I was surprised because there's not a time zone on it.
Oh, right. But okay, let's do it. Let's see it though. Case DT. If now this actually, oh yeah, because first we have to confirm that, pick out the date the way we want it. So we say DT, and I guess we could do again.
Another
Actually, you know what? Now I have a different idea.
Okay.
Let's use let's use this form as our second case, and then we'll just hijack the default and validate that it turns out dates for us. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to have case of I don't know, that's year forward. So we'll just call our case YF. There we go, case YF. Oops, except now I don't get to see, but anyway, I remember what it is. YF matches. And again, we could write a regular expression here that's pretty casual because we have a very limited data set. You would want to be more thoughtful about this. In fact, always with regular expressions, just like with DataWeave, test carefully that you're not making an assumption that doesn't apply to all the data. Okay. In our case, we can see it all and we know this will be safe enough. So my regular expression will be at the beginning of the pattern. I see a set. So I'll give square brackets, and in that set, there are 4 digits contiguous starting at the beginning of the pattern. So in my set, I say 0 through 9. And after the bracket, I'll put curly braces and say there should be 4 of these, and in curly braces that. And what am I missing?
We better
there?
put a
That's
slash after that one, right? Because this one has slashes.
I'm not going to match the whole thing. I'm just going to match the first 4 digits.
Okay.
Is there some other data that also works that way in that set?
Yeah, your default case is also Y.
Oh, you're right. It does. Yeah, we need a dash, a literal dash.
Slash, right? Aren't you trying to do the slash case?
Oh, slash. Correct.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
got
So
slash.
yeah, we need to escape and then a
And
slash.
this is what makes everybody hate regex right here.
Yes, exactly. Oh, wait. I want to be sure this is a minimal match, not a maximal match. Is that dot star at the, yeah. So let me give this expression over on the chat stream. If you hate regular expressions, though, you'll have a similar experience with DataWeave, really, because it's an art as much as it is a science, and it takes patience. And then when you're finished and you look at it, you're like, I wrote that, and I throw shade on COBOL programmers, and I wrote that. And your DataWeave will come out that way too. Before we wrap, I'm going to give you a couple of examples to take away, and you'll see, wow, okay, that's a little much. Anyway, meanwhile, that expression should match this final case. And so what I want to do there is I'm just going to do this the old hard fashioned way. I'm going to say, then take YF as a date. And again, I'll just put a format for it. So it's 4 digits slash 2 digits slash 2 digits. So I'll say as date and format colon in quotes. We get YYYY slash MM slash DD. And we don't see the evidence that this worked yet, but I'm going to give us that evidence in a moment. If we believe, and by the way, here's your full expression for this, in which I'm sharing recklessly because I haven't actually validated here. Validated. You never throw shade on COBOL programmers, all right? All right. So if these first 2 cases are correct, I assert they are, and we'll see for sure in a moment. The third case, the default then would be what's left, right? These guys are getting hit by the default case. And if I say D as, oops, you can't write in the output panel. You can't roller skate in the buffalo herd, but you can coerce that to, oh, that you're not going to let me, huh? Bummer, Miss Wendy. Look here, you guys. This is not the only editor that allows this behavior, but you will find it useful. Sometimes you want to comment out a patch of code, so you highlight it and you reach for control slash. And now I got no body expression. And I put in the number 1. Now I have a body expression. And I'll tell you why I want to do that. I want to grab dates. Sub 4, it's like right in the middle. And then I would just confirm, you don't want to give me that as a date, do you? Yeah, see, you do. And look, we can test it. If I highlight this entire thing, gives parens, and on the input side, on the beginning side, I'll say type of, and he says dates of 4 as date is in fact date. So it treats those
So we fell into the else with something different than that.
that could be, yeah, it might be one of my cases doesn't match.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it doesn't. So let's see, did I write this well? Oh, you know
I
what?
want everybody to follow what Vincent just discovered. So if Vincent just did the whole K match statement and the else aired out, right? And the code looked like it should not do that. So he went, and what Vincent did in his brain is I think it's my default case, which is the one that, because we were questioning if it needed a time zone, right? The why is he, but we just proved right there with this dates, you did the fourth one, right? Which is actually the fifth one, the one in the middle, and it did parse, right? So it's not a time zone thing. You just proved it.
And
Yeah,
that's,
so we
again, like just taking your complex code and giving it a rest, running a little experiment on the side, is big help sometimes. And this is why you make that second most common mistake, because sometimes your logic, you can't really see the complete story of your logic till it's finished. So you have to step by step really. So yeah,
it's not so we know the else case, what's after the arrow is valid. So now our next hypothesis is, well, something's making it to the else besides the middle 3 dates, right?
Yeah, I suspect this one actually. And I'll tell you why, Ryan. I think matches wants me to match the entire value, not just a portion, the way grep does.
Well,
So
do you
I
think
think
in your second regex you used the caret to say from the beginning, and in your first regex you did not do that. So I wonder if when you use a caret, it has to match the whole expression.
Well, I would assert that even in the first one, it does match the whole expression, even though I don't anchor it. But what's missing is if I want to keep fighting evil today, I've got to say dot star, and then I could anchor it too. When you anchor it, you guarantee it has to match the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm being overly explicit there, but that's probably the issue, and we'll find out now because I just bring these guys back online.
And just
Not
for
really.
study group, maybe just everybody calm down and don't worry about it so much. Regular expression expertise is a tiny little rare corner of DataWeave programming. So we happen to do a regular expression example today, but it's more about the match than it is about the regexes. I mean, it's nice to know regexes. It's useful.
Yeah.
But if you don't know regexes, you can still give yourself a 4 out of 5 on DataWeave.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, this is a sidebar, just like date formatting really kind of is too. So we get gummed up in that a lot of times with our simple examples. Listen, we will run out of time in a minute, so there's some stuff I wanted to share with you. So let me take you through a couple of exercises you might take away. Okay. So when you use the DataWeave Playground, if you wish, you can work with a panoply of scripts, or like in the case like this, I need to test something, throw in an extra script and test it in isolation. It's good. So I want to show you a little template, and I'll share this with you. When you change scripts here, by the way, selecting a different one is great. You see in the editor, if you really want to work with it, you need to double click just to make sure it's selected. Like, come on. And then you should be able to, there you go. Yeah, the update, the panel updates now. Okay. I'm going to share this over to the code share here just a moment. Let me find that thing. I don't really want to do either one of those. Okay, so there's your setup for this experiment. And the goal of this is to synthesize some records really fast. And what you're going to do is you're going to make a company name by combining company and industry. You're going to get the city, the state, and you're going to create a record that has this form. And if you want to take that and put it into a script in the DataWeave Playground, I recommend it, because the goal is to do something like what I'm about to show you. You want to, your goal is create a function that takes parameter n and creates you n records where you end up with a sample that looks like this, right? You might come to a conclusion like this you see at the bottom. And so if you look at the function in records, we take an input n, we assert that it must be numeric. We use the range operator to create a set. It's a range, really. You can treat it as an array. And then we run map on it. So we figure out we're going to run this 10 times. And by the way, the reason that the preview doesn't give me 13 of these is, once again, I need to double click to activate this as the working script. So we take our number, we say we're going to do this 10 times by using map, and then we just form a structure that looks kind of like our sample record. I didn't put the state and postal code. You might consider, if you take this as well, one of your choices would be try to work this out for yourself. But you'll notice one thing, it ultimately required, instead of having to have this expression get repeated, in this case 4 times, we would say like whatever, I sub random int size of I. It's cool that works exactly, right? But instead, a helper function made this body expression a little cleaner. And frankly, I think this layout might be more semantically evocative here. I don't know, I always play with these until I'm happy that I can see what I'm doing. That actually, in my mind, looks better. So one of the things I've seen over and over, and Diane, Ryan, you might be able to confirm, you've seen this a lot too. You go into a project, people are saying, yeah, I'm starting this project out, and we've been working on it for 2 weeks, but we really haven't gotten anywhere because we're still trying to get access to the database, or trying to get access to the credentials to get into whatever it is you're supposed to get into. Vincent's law of effort is 90% of your project's effort goes into breaking into your own business systems, and then the rest of the job is just the other 90%. So you might decide to simulate an input source for yourself, and this is a quick way, and look how little code it takes to do this, right? And then you get variation across this because it's randomized. I mean, I know you could use an API that does something a little bit like this, but you might do this for yourself to get just the control. Oh my goodness. Thank you for writing that. Who put that in? Sandeep, excellent. All right, so I'm gonna share this onto the co-chair, because I have one more thing I want to show you before I.
It's too bad we don't have prizes to give out, Diane. Sandeep should get a prize. That's
I
great.
think so, yeah.
That's amazing, with the regexes too.
You guys need to get some merch, man. MuleSoft running out, but integration adventures. All right, look here. One last thing. Here's a date solution, by the way, that I wrote some long time ago. I won't stand by it, but yeah, this is kind of what we talked about. And if I followed Ryan's advice, which I should, this cleans up a lot if I move these formats into their own definitions, right?
I like the type aliasing on line 19. I don't think we covered that, and I use that a lot.
Oh yeah, because here, look at, well, let me get this running first. So
yeah.
This is 3 dates, date solution, I think. Yeah, so is that it? Yeah. So this allows you to just pick from the other formats, right? And say, okay, do US date then. And then it changes or so on. So yeah, this again, this cleans up your code so much to do something like this, where you have these 3 forms, and instead of going and fixing all these to go, oh, I want to go to scientific date, I want to go to whatever, you just do type aliasing, and then you can leverage the whole thing.
Well, and then that type alias could be passed into another function, and it could be done at runtime too, not just the design time. It's type alias.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And DataWeave has full of treasures like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everything can be used as a value, right? Functions can be used as a value. Data types can be used as a value. Okay, we got to wrap up here in just a second. I'm going to give it back to Whitney in a sec, but right before we do, I want to give you one last experiment to work on. This is, oh, we didn't talk about reduce. You know what? You guys got to come back to another study session and we're going to do reduce, just reduce that whole day.
I mean, you did give them the tutorial and it's at the end of the tutorial.
That's right. Yeah, that's not enough reduce, man. They got to get some from us. That's what I think. But so I will leave this for another time. And meanwhile, Whitney, I took all the time we had, and I apologize. Give us a
Listen,
wrap.
you did amazing. This has been so. This has been masterclass.
Yeah, this has
Wow.
been great. No
Thank
apology.
you.
Okay.
Thank you so
Take it
much,
back.
Vincent. Thank you so much, because this was Salesforce quality, something that you would get from like paying for a course that you've given our members for free. So thank you very, very much. We are so grateful for this. But we're going to turn it to our IQ community. We love hearing your success stories. We have on our website currently Francis's success story as well as Shauna's success story. And we want to hear more. I hear stories all the time about how you all have attended certain study groups and have been able to pass certification exams, have been able to get job offers. But now we need to actually publicize this so that more people can know about Integration Quest, our mission, and also they can join these study groups and various courses. So invite your Muley friends and colleagues. And okay, my next slide is not coming up, but pretty much the next slide is on our next study group, which will be May 17th. And it's going to be on intelligent document processing that just came out, guys. So we're going to get someone to present that. And if anyone has any questions, please leave it in a comment or come off mute. And again, thank you, Vincent. And thank you to everyone that has joined.
Yes, thank you. Sandeep, where are you located?
I'm located in Texas.
Okay, I need your address. So send that to me, okay?
Yeah.
Another thing, while you guys are leaving, I want to show you one more thing. Here, I'm going to break what I'm sharing here. And I just want to show you this. If you go to integration.quest, my computer go there. All right. So you go to integration.quest, you'll see the next study group will be up, but also on the page, there are places where you can get on our wait list for certain classes and also certain things. So like if you want to contact us.
I need you guys to do that, because part of what we're doing with the wait list is figuring out what classes to make. And it's a lot of work to make classes. So we don't just make a million classes. We can only make the one. So if you sign up for wait lists, that's how we know what classes we should go be making for you guys. To, you know, we made up one on automation on RPA. We made up one on Composer. We got one on MUnit. We've got like a professional MuleSoft class. And we're, you know, we want to try to make, we're about to make an architecture class because people keep asking me that. But I need to know from you guys what classes should exist. What does the world need? And we will love to make it for you. So that's why you sign up on the wait list and send us your feedback however you can.
We'll be adding the intelligent document process. That will be coming up as a class also.
Okay, so once you sign up on a wait list, like if there's a class that it's here but is not available, then you sign up on a wait list. Signing up on any of the wait lists would also give you access to get these notifications after the study group. So you'll get a newsletter after the study group called IQ Notes, and that'll give you information on the latest classes. as well as the last study group. So if you've missed it, you'll have a link delivered to your email with the information from the latest study group. So that's all I wanted to say. Architecture and diagramming. I have searched many moons.
That's a great point, really. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Can I'm like, I don't know, you didn't ask for it, Max. Is Max still on?
Yes.
I wanted to give you a plug because Max has been making YouTube videos, everybody, about MuleSoft. So I don't know if you wanted to tell her, like, what's your last one you put up or whatever. Do you want to? I don't know if you wanted to tell the other study group people.
I'm actually doing it kind of for myself mostly. So since I'm working in a company where we also do some MuleSoft stuff and some